What's going on, everybody? TheKennyDubz here with another Mega Man X character overview. Today we're going to be taking a look at Super Base, one of the more anticipated characters coming to the global version of X Dive this week. Alright, so here we are taking a look at Super Base here, and again, unless we get an update prior to the Super Base dropping, we shouldn't have his voice or even Seal's voice added to X Dive Global, which that was supposed to happen before the end of November, so it's either today or tomorrow for that update. But I'm sorry, before December. So let's take a look at Super Base's active skills here. First up, we have the Base Buster. Now this skill deals about 202% attack damage to the target and generates Sabotage Beam on the spot after hitting the target, which will continue to deal damage to the target and inflict defense crush and weakening target's defense by 6.5%. Can be stacked up to 8 times. So that's really good there. Just overall good skill, good damage, and inflicts defense crush, which is fantastic to have on as well. So for the modifier chips, disarm defense, move enhanced defense status after Base Buster hits, which is pretty nice. This cancels out the defense buff if the opposition has it, and then inflicts defense crush rather than both them existing at the same time. Following that, we have mobility, reduce prep time by 20%. Another decent option there. I think mobility is much better than this because this is so situational. And then finally, we have what you're probably going to be using most of the time in PvP and PvE. Energy Burst can shoot 3 shots at a time. Again, this should look interesting. I say again, but this should look interesting for those of you who've been playing this game for a while. Those of you who have, were familiar with Proto Man EXE or with Swimsuit Palette, as this will allow Base to shoot 3 bursts instead of 1. And what that means is, it means the base power of this, at 202% attack damage, becomes 600% attack damage. Well, 606% attack damage if you want to be like close to exact. But yeah, that's a huge amount of burst damage right there if you're point blank. So if you're point blank, you have potential to do not only huge damage, but get a good amount of stacks in and weaken defense to leave the opposition at a lower amount of HP and possibly finish them off. And it's good burst damage for bosses as well. Following that, we have the Sweeping Laser. Dash forward and shoot a laser downward, dealing 282% attack damage to all targets along its path, and immune to damage when performing a skill. That's pretty nice there. First modifier chip, slow resistance, 40% chance to become immune to slow. And this isn't all that good. Again, very, very niche, much like this one. This would have to be like matchup dependent, but you can't change once you find an opponent, so I wouldn't even recommend running this. Unless, like, it becomes... No, I just wouldn't recommend this. Nothing like. Even in, like, very specific niche scenario, like, even then, I wouldn't, depending on meta. I would rather just build something else. Next up, we have Showtime, and with this will allow you not suffer negative side effects while using Sweeping Laser. And that's very good, because with this allows you essentially true Showtime, so you will not suffer damage while you perform the skill, and you will not suffer negative side effects while using Sweeping Laser. So that's a very, very good modifier chip there. And then finally, we have the modifier chip that I use a lot. Destroy armor after hitting the target, inflict 2 stacks of weakened defense and base and can be used with base sabotage beam. So base sabotage beam, that's just what this up here generates sabotage beam that inflicts defense pressure. So now this stacks with this. So that's how you would essentially try to get the 8 stacks up, because you would get multiple stacks here, then you get a stack here. So that's that. Not a bad skill here. This skill actually pierces terrain. However, it only pierces the terrain downwards. As you can kind of see from the icon, Base aims downwards, and it also tells you in the description. So that's really Super Base's only way of piercing terrain right there. So it's kind of decolon for that, because he doesn't have any other terrain pierce. But he does deal pretty good burst damage. Anyway, let's move on to the passive skills here. First up, Basinium. Reduce damage taken by 10%. I like it. It's not a very high damage mitigation, but just inherent damage mitigation is always welcome. Buster Mastery, increase damage by 20% using a Buster. Again, something I like, that's damage amplification for using a specific weapon. So that you're going to want to build your Super Base probably with at least one of these in mind. Well, I say one of these. One Buster in mind. Next up, we have the Treble Boost, which is actually very, very interesting. And this allows Base to become a sniper after using Sweeping Laser, increasing the speed by 35%. And this is one of the things that allows Base to be such a very, very versatile unit and have him be good in multiple game modes. Because the Treble Boost will not only be useful in PvP, but also in race modes, right? In PvP, you can use it to engage or disengage upon the opposition, alongside with using the sweeping laser to get mobility as well as a mobility option. But now you have increased movement speed for that as well, to even get further away or to continue pursuing the opposition. And in race mode, you can use this obviously to go fast, because in race mode, you gotta go fast. Next up, we have Animosity, which is a very, very interesting passive here. When you're hitting a mobile target, you gain invulnerability status as well. This effect can only be triggered again after 3 seconds. However, this effect will not work on targets that are immune to debuffs. That's important there, because it will not work on targets that are immune to debuffs via Preventive Shield or that have True Showtime. And again, base actually has access to True Showtime via this. So, that's good to keep in mind there, that if you're in a Super Base Mirror match, if they're using Sweeping Laser, you might not be able to trigger the Animosity off of that if you hit them during, you know, your Sweeping Laser. And then on top of that, when you're attacked, there is a low chance to activate the skill, and apply the 3-second cooldown restriction won't apply. That's pretty cool as well. I believe the chance of this is really, really low. Like, this is low, so I'm assuming less than 30%. Maybe like 10 or 20% on this, to be quite honest with you. But when it does trigger, it will be useful. So that's pretty good there. But again, you just have to be mindful of trying to trigger this off of True Showtime abilities. So that's just something that you would just have to kind of know, because the game doesn't exactly tell you. And you know what True Showtime is. You just know that some skills have the passive effect. You know, you will not suffer negative status effects while using this move. So, and then if that iframe's on top of that somehow, if you get a modifier chip or something, then you won't get the animosity from that. And then finally, we have Evil Energy, and this is what allows base to just pile on the insane burst damage that he can do. Use Base Buster repeatedly. This effect can only be triggered again once for an 8-second cooldown. Use Sweeping Laser repeatedly. This effect can only be used when after a 10-second cooldown. So this is really, really good here. So what this allows you to do is, it says repeatedly. Basically, it's just twice within the cooldown seconds. Inherently, Base Buster already has like a 5-second cooldown, and Sweeping Laser like a 7-second cooldown. So by the time these are back up, you'll be close to getting the Evil Energy triggered anyway. But what this also means is that Sweeping Laser, Base Buster just went from, with the modifier chip, it just went from a 606% attack damage to 1212 attack damage. That's assuming you hit, all 3 shots both times. You have a huge amount of damage there lined up with that. And then with Sweeping Laser, you have the 282, and then the 282 again, assuming that you hit both there. But that's not taking into account that you might have the defense crush on them as well. So if you have the defense crush on them, then the second round of attacks will deal even more damage because of the defense crush stacks. So I'm going to take a look at Super Base's DNA. He should not be getting this when he hits the global version, but again, I like to go over these just so that players are aware of what's in store for these characters once they get their DNA. So let's click down here. First up, we have Energy Feedback. When defeating a target with a weapon or skill, recover HP equal to 20% of attack. This effect can only be triggered once it has a 6-second cooldown. This isn't really good for PvP. However, PvE, this is really, really nice. Right? Like, you're killing mobs or whatever, and like Jakob's Orbital Elevator, this gives you a passive form of healing on top of maybe your baton card, or whatever you're using. And with this means that you're not locked to a specific weapon for the healing, right? Because in Jakob's, they say, like, this floor gives shotguns at 300% modifier, right? So then, you kill someone with a shotgun, and then you'll get this as well, rather than it having to be tied directly to, like, the Festive Specialty Sword. I couldn't remember the name for a second, or the Crimson Side Sword, right? So that's very, very good for PvE, not that great for PvP. It can still be used in PvP, but like, it's not really that reliable for PvP. Following that, we have Buster Adaptability, reduce damage taken by 20%. Again, very nice there. It would have been great if this was packed into something else. But having a damage amplification and damage mitigation on a character is very, very nice. And if you have a Buster equipped while this DNA is unlocked, that's just inherent 30% damage mitigation for existing with a Buster equipped because of the Basinium. So that's very nice as well. And then finally, we have Body Boost. Eliminates all negative status effects from yourself when using Sweeping Laser. Damage multiplier of Sabotage Beam is increased by 30%, and the resulting weakened defense, the resulting defense crush, or weakened defense status. But I say defense crush rather than weakened defense status, just because that's just, I feel like you get the same feeling across, and that's just what I call it in multiple other games, as there's a few games I play where it's called defense crush, so that's why I do that. And it cannot be removed, and preventive shields are ignored. So that's very, very nice there. This won't go through True Showtime, however, but this will go through Preventive Shield and cannot be removed. So unfortunately, this this actually immediately contradicts itself, because it says eliminates all negative status effects when using Sweeping Laser, and then the resulting weakened defense crush from this cannot be removed and want to be ignored. Well, if this eliminates all negative status effects, but they can't be removed, right? Like you don't. That's why I'm like, it should say most, because that wording is confusing, especially like if you're a newer player, or maybe you just unaware of certain things in this game, how they just ignore preventive shield, right? So that's why I would prefer that. But this one's pretty good. The only real like downside with it for me, in my eyes, is that it doesn't exactly, from the ones that I would really want to remove, I can't, because I can't use skills like when I'm immobilized. Other than that, though, you can. Oh, you also can't use it while your skill's sealed. But you know, weapon sealed, chilled, dot, or damage over time. You know, poison, burn, things to that effect. You'll be able to cleanse those. So that's pretty nice there. Overall, Super Base's DNA, I think it's pretty weak for his fixed DNA overall. But he was such a powerhouse unit when he released. I can kind of see why they did that. And down here we have, in this unique DNA, we have Pressure Operation. When causing defense crush or hitting a target with defense crush, restore HP equal to 12% your attack. This effect can only trigger once again every 6 seconds. Now this is actually pretty useful in things like raid bosses, because Super Base inherently just is able to inflict defense crush, right? So that's very, very good for him. You can also use this to inherit onto someone else who inflicts native defense crush on, like, say, Raffles Armor X, so it's good over there as inherited DNA. This is okay for PvP. It's really not, it's not the best thing, especially like on a unit that isn't that bulky, but you can, like, it's, I wouldn't say it's like dead weight, but it's definitely something there if you have it for PvP. It's much better for PvE content, but it's something that you can use. And then just the rest of the stuff over here: adversity amplification, mid-range boost, buster adaptability, so you can reduce damage even more. I say not that bulky, but he inherently has 30%, which is a pretty good starting point for that. Problem is that 30% is tied to having a buster active on him. I'm giving you a buster amplification here. And then over here, we got some nice stuff. We have out of control resistance, crit reduction resistance, crit reduction special attack. Okay, and defense crush special attack, which is good there. You'll get more damage hitting something in defense crush. Not too much else really good there. So that's really it for Super Base. So let's move on to some weapons that would pair well with Super Base. All right, so Super Base likes to use buster type weapons, so that's what we are going to prefer to put on him today. So as kind of per usual, Sniper Buster, real good. Explosive Bolt, again, real good. Explosive Bolt, the best sniper style buster in the game. Has insane range, high damage potential, and has access to player killer and penetration. As I usually say, I like player killer better because you literally just exist with this weapon to get the benefit from player killer, whereas penetration requires a bit more setup, but it has more damage output. But so player killer, I think, is better. It's a bit more consistent as well, just because you don't have to like go for the optimal setup where you can get some ricochets. And then Sniper Buster, it's just Sniper Buster. Not really too much to say about that. Hits hard. That's it there. And alongside that, we have Destructive Laser, is also a decent option as well for a buster that you can use. Where is it? Laser right here. This has a bit of a higher fire rate than Sniper Buster, but it deals less damage overall. It really deals less damage per hit, but you have a high rate of fire, so there is that. That is something that you can do there. And another buster I actually want to talk about a little bit here is the Arc Cracker. I don't usually recommend this weapon for PvP, I don't think it's all that great. I think I recommended it maybe for 4th Armor X as well because he has an inherent defense crush. And because of that inherent defense crush, you can actually get away with running this and having super base inflict the demobilize status alongside this because he has access to inherent defense crush. So there's that. And I don't think this weapon has its hidden skill in global just yet. I'm not sure. I don't think it does. But you also have Destroyer here, which was pretty interesting, as Destroyer will just allow you to gain attack stacks for firing, kind of like not how Nightmare does for just swinging it around. This can be used in a double buster setup if you don't want to go double sniper. You just kind of use this for the utility of getting the attack buffs, and then when you're ready to engage, switch to like Sniper Buster or your Explosive Bolt, and then let loose your damage from there. So that'll be pretty good damage-wise there. Other than that, like I said, you want to primarily focus on busters. However, you can go hybrid builds alongside double buster, or double buster. Hybrid builds are very, very good as well. And with hybrid builds, I obviously have to throw Nightmare in here. Nightmare is a fantastic weapon. You can just use Nightmare for the utility. And by utility, I mean the attack boost. Because that's, like, you use Nightmare for that. You can pizza cut real good with this as well here. Ancient Relic actually is the utility weapon, as Ancient Relic has access to more speed boost. Or what you could do with this, because Super Base doesn't have its own shield, is you can use Protect Rune. Actually, you could stack another speed buff and go real fast, but that might be a little too fast. However, that will allow you to easily close the distance between you and the opposition to getting close and, you know, deal damage. Because Super Base kind of wants to be mid to close range. He doesn't do well versus zoner characters because he gets zoned out easily due to not really being able to pierce terrain very well. So that's a big weakness of his there. The speed boost will help you deal with that, or you can even use the Protect Rune to do with that realistically, because let's say he gets up a relatively weak shield, but that plus your Sabotage Beam should be enough to get you within range on most maps. So I thought I'd throw that in here as well. And then since we're talking about melee weapons, I have to throw in Grudge Axe. I say this all the time, I don't really like Grudge Axe all that much, but Grudge Axe is a fantastic weapon, and it is probably the melee weapon of choice in the global server right now because it is just that damn good. Grudge Axe, for those of you that are unaware, it allows you to just steal buffs, not just remove them for your opponent, but steal them and take them for yourself, right? So if you have a shield and I hit you with Grudge Axe, well, now your shield belongs to me, right? So that's really good. You can use Grudge Axe. If you don't have Grudge Axe, another weapon you could use is Singularity Slasher. Singularity Slasher is significantly worse in Grudge Axe, quite honestly, because Singularity Slasher just dispels the buffs. And it dispels the buffs rather than just giving them to you. So that's why, like, why use Singularity Slasher when you have Grudge Axe? This is also the cooldown type instead of the recharge type weapon. So Grudge Axe has another advantage there in being the recharge type. All right, and then I'm going to recommend the Decide's Will as well. I don't think this weapon is just too good. Right, this weapon is just really good at what it does. And although you really want to use busters with Super Base, what having Decide's Will allows you to do is this allows you to kind of go more head-to-head with zoners in a way, and like kind of zone other units out that you don't really want to be close to. So Decide Will is a fantastic weapon. I don't have it on this account, so I can't go over it fully here. I can show you everything, but Decide's Will, it does a little bit of damage, can lock on the targets in its path, shoots lasers, but this weapon will auto aim even instead of confusion or if automatic aim is turned off. So you cannot decide, it will find you. Like, you will not escape. It has terrain piercing, and it's just a fantastic weapon, like especially on like more zone-centric maps. And like I said, it's the range on this is really good as well. It also has homing missiles that pierce terrain as well. So that's really good. But this, like I said, this weapon is just nutty. I forgot to throw Airbuster in here, but I don't really think you need Airbuster. However, you can make use of Airbuster, and if you want to go double buster or some kind of a hybrid setup with it. Now, the reason I didn't recommend Airbuster is because Super Base inherently has speed boosts in his kit when you use his sabotaging game. However, you could just stack speed boost with Airbuster to engage or disengage really easily. This would be great for race mode, But if you want to use them for PvP, PvE, like PvP, it's something you can do. I don't really recommend it for that. I like this better on other characters for hybrid melee builds, busted melee builds. But this is something you can use if you really choose to. It's just not something I'd recommend personally on Super Base. And then for like your PvE needs, again, it's gonna really depend on what you're doing in PvE, but you'll probably want something with some healing. So the Crimson Scythe is a melee weapon that has access to healing with its hidden skill here, and its memories can be researched in the lab. Once on a greatsword helps versus boss units. That's healing there, so that's really good for raids as well. Super Mag Gun has healing as a hidden skill, so you can use that. And like this will also be useful for Jakob's Orbital Elevator as well. And this Heart Spray Gun has access to healing with emotional reflux, and then its hidden skill of your choice, whether it be free emotion or inject emotion. And the Bubble Bomber has healing as well with Oracle of Life when you get hit, and the healing off of the hidden skill for regeneration when you exhaust your weapon HP. And because Global has it, I don't want to forget about it. The Festive Specialty. This is another melee weapon that allows you to heal, and it was free. So if you got it during that time, this is something you can use as well for PvE type healing. Alright, so now we're going to take a look at some cards, which you're going to use for Super Base. Kind of as I usually say, it's going to depend on what you have in your DNA, what you want to cover up, maybe what you're lacking. But as per usual, the standard suspects or usual suspects will be decent choices overall here. And by that I mean they're player killer skills, because if you're in PvP, you're going to want player killers, or your Master of the Fist from your Akuma card. And player killer is on the M. Bison card, and it's on the Life Aura card from... How far down is it? Did I pass it? I guess I passed it. The Life Aura card, which you can get from the token shop. Oh, here it is. I got pushed on because I got more cards. Life Aura has it, and so does the Sigma Tour card. And both of these can be obtained in the token shop. Violin has it as well, but this is from a random. This is an RNG drop from a pack, alongside the Wheel Gator card, which you can make in the Research Lab, and the Matt card, which is also a random drop from a pack, but since it's an A rank, it'll be much easier for you to get. From there, it's going to depend on what you want to cover up, what weapons you're running. If you're going to do maybe a hybrid setup, you're going to want to look for your Elite Hunters cards. You have the blue red here. If you're going to go hybrid melee buster, double depth abilities here. You do 2 of these in a red card, alongside maybe the X's Memories cards. That could be quite useful there, as X's Memory has Buster Amplification as well. The Light Virus R has double amplification for busters. If you want to go a double buster route, that is something that could work as well. And I believe the Successfully Completed is a card you can get from your guild that has... here it is. Successfully Completed has double amplification. Oh, this is for buster melee. Well, this is another option in case you can't get your Elite Hunters card. Oh, here it is. Stopping 100 with 1 is double amp for busters, so that's something you can use as well. The Bitter Struggle card also has double buster, for the buster setups as well, and you can get this from your guild quite easily, as it's an A rank card, but it still requires a bit of RNG to get from there as well. Guild Development is another budget option for Buster Melee if you really are having trouble getting a good Buster Melee card. And it is something from your guild, but it is an A rank, so in theory it should be easier for players to get. And finally, I just wanted to kind of splash in here, maybe Defense Crush Reduction Special Attack, if you're looking for something to just kind of splash in at the end there. Just because Super Base can inflict a lot of Defense Crush depending on which modifier type you're using. Though they might be limited to just the base buster if you're not opting for Defense Crush on the Sabotaging Beam, which is understandable because Sabotaging Beam also has True Showtime active as an option as well. Oh, right, that will be it for going over Super Base. I'm excited for him to come to the global version. There's one more thing I just kind of wanted to mention here. Maybe I should have mentioned that earlier in the video, but Super Bass won't be as nearly as impressive or even close to the power that he was when he first released in the Taiwan version. And a lot of players are still really looking forward to Bass in a PvP setting, but unfortunately, because of how the schedule shifted and how he got things in global version, he shouldn't be nearly as strong. Right? I know a lot of people are still looking at him as if he's still the same power he was when he was in the Taiwan version, but because we've gotten a lot more like zoner characters, and we even got Divine, besides Will a lot earlier. We have a lot more tools to deal with him now in a PvP setting. I still think he'll be good for PvP, but I think he's gonna be much better in PvE than in PvP. I think it's because we have so many things to just like kind of zone him out and really deal with him now. Like we even got base double cross a bit earlier than we were supposed to in global, and base double cross he has zoning capabilities. Like Base's one of Base's biggest weaknesses, Super Bass, is that he doesn't have a way to really deal with zoners, and like his damage is locked behind mid to short range damage, so he has to want to get close to someone, and then even then he needs unobstructed line of sight. So going back to cyberspace, let's say for example, because I think that's the map right now in global. If we're in cyberspace and I'm just on the other side of a wall from you, you really can't do anything with your skills, and that's where like most of your damage comes from a Super Bass, because you want to be spamming your skills, right? Whereas if I was base double cross, I have Chaos Nightmare to nuke you. Or, you know, if I'm like Fast Leviathan or Zenogre Iris, or even Zero Nightmare his attacks can go through walls. So that is a very big problem that Super Bass has, and that's why I don't think he'll be nearly as potent in PvP as he was upon release, just because we have so many things to kind of zone out in global version. Zero Nightmare, Zenogre Iris, Festive Leviathan, you know, and whatever, you know, what have you, for that. But I do think he will still be good. He just won't be as good as a lot of people I think are hyping him up to be. So I think a lot of players should temper their expectations for PvP when using Super Bass. Yeah, if you get close to the opposition, you can delete them, and you know that's not really gonna change. If you get close to them, you can delete them. But the problem is you have to be able to get close to them to be able to just, you know, delete them off the face of the planet. But that is going to be it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, I appreciate if you guys could like, comment, and subscribe. Help the channel out to go show me enjoy my content. And a quick shout out to my YouTube channel members and my patrons for continuing so and allowing me to do what I do. Those of you that would like to support my Patreon or become a YouTube channel member, you can find out how to do that down below. Good luck to those of you pulling for Super Bass, and I will see you guys next time. Later.